This is the CHRILLCAST. I'm Chris.
And Will.
I'm Zang.
And I'm 00.
And if you just caught the Thursday video or for this one, you'll realize that Installation00 just randomly popped in and crashed the stream. But he's also in Monday through Wednesday, and we did some really great videos with him and Hidden Xperia. So go watch those if you're on the last video this week and somehow didn't watch those. So anyways, Zang, tell everybody about your channel.
So I do reaction videos to all sorts of stuff. Arrow, Flash, Star Wars, Halo, all that great stuff. Working on the Boys in Umbrella Academy currently. I'm also shifting to do more Halo-centric videos, both lore and reactions. So yeah, that's my channel, and I'm hoping to grow.
And Installation00, tell everybody what we just discovered about your channel.
You are, all of you, vermin. No, so...
Okay, I'm sorry.
So... Yeah, I make Halo lore videos, and I'm probably best known for my most detailed breakdown. And in particular, we just discovered for some reason that I made some I remade all of the terminal videos from Halo 3 with voice actors. That includes Steve Downes as Master Chief, Tim Dadavo as 343 Guilty Spark, Kat Peterson as the Librarian, and then I voice the Autodidact and a few other characters. So I narratively explored the terminals, and for some reason nobody seemed to get the notification for it when it went live, as we've just discovered. So if you haven't seen the terminal videos, I strongly recommend you go and have a look, because it narratively explores with the vocal talents of the people I've just said, narratively explores the Halo 3 terminals in an awesome new way.
And if you're playing Halo 3 right now and you don't want to have to read, this is a great resource for you to go to YouTube and just be like, all right, Installation00 and all the other crew, tell me what happened in this terminal. All right. Definitely, I'm going to go watch those later. So, and Will's going to too. He already said so. If he doesn't, I will get him Mr. 00. I will make sure he watches them.
You don't need to get me to do anything. Chris. I can watch it. I listen to both these guys' videos all the time during work. So
there you go. All right. So today we're not here to talk about Halo for once this week. It's not about Halo, and it's not about Xenoblade Chronicles either. It's
always about Halo.
It's about console sales and why the Xbox Series X launching with Halo would have sold a lot more. No, I'm just kidding. But it's about the console sales, and will the next gen consoles outsell the previous gen consoles? That's the question we're going to kind of answer today. So,
not at the current pace. They got to make more.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish setting this up, Will. Okay. So I am going to give a little bit of facts here. So will the next gen consoles outsell the previous generation? To know if we can do it or not, we have to know what they sold previous gen. So the last gen console for the Xbox, the best selling console will they outsell all of the previous generation consoles was the question. So the best selling Xbox of all time was the 360, and it sold 84 million plus units. The best-selling console for Nintendo was the Wii, and it sold 101.6 million units, with the best-selling Nintendo handheld, which is relevant because the Switch is handheld as well as being a docked console, sold 154 million units, which is insane. But the most insane console of all time was the PS2 that sold 155 plus million units, with the PSP selling 82 million units. And then the Atari, because we're going to throw that in there too, sold 30 million units, the 2600. And the best-selling Intellivision of all time sold 3 million units. And all of these console brands have new consoles coming out this year, which is why I have these all here. So the newest Xbox
within a year of this video, not in 2020.
Exactly, within the year. The Xbox Series X and S have already released. The PS5 is already released. The Nintendo Switch is currently doing crazy numbers. It's at 68 million sales worldwide, which is more than half of what the Wii sold. And
what's so funny about that is a couple months ago you could not buy a Switch. You couldn't find it anywhere. But if you go to any store now, you can't find the Xbox or PlayStation, but they have 50 Switches.
There's Nintendo right there for you. And then the PS Vita is the latest Sony handheld, and the PS5 is the latest console. The Vita is from 2011, so it's not really a next-gen console anymore. It's pretty old at this point. And then the Atari VCS is obviously coming out. It's coming out in December. They've already shipped some out to developers. I saw a video of them actually playing around with one, which was kind of cool. And then the Intellivision Amico, our good friend Tommy Tallarico, putting that out next April. So what are our predictions for the consoles? That's really the question, and can they outsell the previous highest selling console of each respective brand? So let's start with the Xbox, since everybody loves the Xbox in this conversation.
Yeah, I think the Xbox is going to certainly outsell the Xbox One. I think they're just making a lot better decisions. They've bought basically every studio that exists, so they're actually going to have first-party games. They have like the cheaper console, which actually is still really powerful, which is cool. They have that payment system. They have Game Pass. They have the cloud gaming. They're doing everything right this generation. As long as they actually make good on the promise of those first party games eventually. As far as outselling the 360, I think they could. But the thing is, again, they have a different strategy where they want more people buying Game Pass. So you might want to try to factor in, like, maybe they don't sell as many consoles, but they have like 300 million people playing Game Pass, you know. So like they're still dominating the market, but in a different way.
About you, Zang?
Yeah. It's kind of like I'm kind of looking at this console generation as going from like the new iPhone. Upgrading to a new iPhone nowadays. It's like, yeah, you got some cool new features and stuff, but it's like I could wait another year or two to get a new iPhone. That's kind of how I felt about the Series X for a bit. I currently have an Xbox One X, and going to a Series X, the only serious thing I'm like, this is really cool, is just the speed. Because quick resume, I would not really use quick resume anyways. I close any game I'm currently operating anyways because it makes the console run slower because it's focusing on two different games. So going from like the Xbox original to the Xbox 360, that was a huge jump. There was a social aspect. There was a bigger emphasis on Xbox Live. They had a whole bunch of new games coming out. And I think that the Xbox Series X doesn't have that. And I don't think there's any way it'll definitely outsell a previous generation. But like Will said, they're focusing on Game Pass. So they might make more money, but they probably won't outsell. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. See, I agree with a lot of those sentiments. Obviously, at the moment, it's a slightly more problematic situation, obviously, with supplies of the console being relatively limited. But in the long term, yeah, it's entirely possible they'll outsell the number of units. I mean, you got to consider like some of the really older consoles, like the PS2. Considering that was launched back in 2000, really there weren't many other games consoles on the market around that time, aside from at that time. Before the Xbox launched, at least the original Xbox, if anyone said games console, generally speaking, they were thinking the PlayStation. So the PlayStation 2 dominating the market back then at 155 plus units. I don't think it's very likely that the new Xbox is going to match that for unit sales.
No.
But once they get over these issues at the moment with supply and demand, I think with how much is going right for the Xbox at the moment, and how much Microsoft have diversified their sort of business model, and they've branched out, and they're utilizing PC as another way to go about getting their content out. They've got the xCloud. They've got, as Will said, they're doing everything right this time around. There's a good chance, with a little bit more time and a little bit more in the way of actual supply, so to speak. There's a good chance they could outsell the Xbox One and the 360.
And with a console at $300 with the Xbox Series S, that could be a great holiday seller, especially next year if they have a Halo themed one. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Well, it's a great way of people who like PlayStation more to get into the Xbox ecosystem, because you do the payment system where you buy the Xbox, you have the payment system, and you still get Game Pass. So you have access to all of the first-party games across multiple generations. And that's the thing, is like, that's why I have a hard time getting into PlayStation, is because I would have to rebuy all those games, whereas with Xbox, I would have them just for free, essentially.
The other thing I found out Sony did that was really smart, that I hope Microsoft implements as well, is Sony actually included PS5 Remote Play as an app on the PS4. So if you already have a PS4 and you have a PS5 hooked up downstairs in your house, and you have a PS4 upstairs in your bedroom, you want a game before you go to bed, that is an amazing option.
The thing is that that's a moot point for the Xbox, because you already have the xCloud. So
but do you have it on Xbox One? That's the question.
What do you mean? Yeah. Yes. I mean, you can use your Xbox as a booster or whatever. But
no, that's you're not understanding me, Will. If you can play Xbox Series X games in the future via xCloud on the Xbox One, that's what I'm saying. Not the current games.
Oh, I see. So I see. You mean like,
if they continue to support the Xbox One,
I
via
think
xCloud
that
going forward.
I'm sure there's a way you can finagle it where you just play it on the TV, because you can't you cast it already from the game or the xCloud?
I'm not sure. I know you can with like an Apple TV or like a streaming stick or something like that. I'm saying they should continue to give utility to the Xbox One via
I mean,
xCloud.
I totally agree with you. I think they probably will. I mean, they're still sort of supporting the 360. They
Yeah.
can still get free games for it every month, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. So that
gonna
was my only
unplug.
comment there. Sorry, go ahead.
I would just unplug it and move it to upstairs. 'Cause that's what I do.
Well, if you're not going to keep multiple consoles, sure, but I always end up keeping the previous gen consoles instead
I will
of.
probably trade in my Xbox One X if I get a Series X, because at that point it is
Doing.
very redundant. The only
That
reason
is.
why I have the older consoles is because there's still games that I can't play that I wouldn't play on the older ones. But with the Series X, it literally plays every single game I have, so I don't see a reason to keep the One X.
Yeah, because the OG Xbox games, they're still plenty locked out from
Yeah.
being playable on the Xbox One X and the Series X. And then the Xbox 360, although there's a vast library of Xbox 360 games that will play on the Xbox One and the Series X, there are still games that are locked out on that gen too. But
Yep.
there's literally full compatibility with the Xbox One, excluding one set of games I'll tell you about in a minute, Will. But
The Kinect games, which I'm never going to play.
I have the Kinect and the Kinect games, so I will be keeping my Xbox One. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm
There's a
weird.
reason why I didn't get the Xbox until the Kinect was no longer in the bundle, but
Clearly, if they don't put a Kinect on the Xbox One Series X, they will not outsell the Xbox One.
yeah, exactly.
So I guess we can move on to the Nintendo. Do you guys think the Switch will surpass the Wii and long shot the DS?
I think it will. I don't know about the DS. I think it will overshoot the Wii because they're going to update it like the handhelds. So like, is that just the base DS, or is that all the different versions?
All the versions of the DS.
Yeah,
but
so they're going to do the same thing with the Switch. So you have the Switch, you have the Switch Lite, you're going to have that Switch HD. I'm sure there's going to be a Switch XL at some point. So they have a winning platform, and I think they're only going to make micro improvements as far as like power, and they're going to keep selling it just like the hand. It's selling like a handheld, so I think it's going to surpass the Wii.
Honestly, I've never been a big Nintendo fan. There aren't really many games I play other than maybe Smash Bros. At a friend's house or something every once in a while. So I don't really know much about Nintendo or the hype around it. But based on what I've heard about the Switch and how hyped people were when it came out, I can really see it outselling the previous gen, especially since, from what I've heard anyways, going from the Switch to the previous gen, which was the Wii U, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
It's a much bigger step just because you have the handheld option, you have the docked option, you have the controllers, and I think that's a really neat idea. It's a really creative and original one as well. So I think that it's definitely possible and actually probable that they will sell out the previous generation.
Yeah,
Especially, go on.
I think given that a lot of our technology nowadays is becoming more and more mobile, the fact that we're carrying around, like phones in our pockets that are stronger and more powerful in processing power than many of our older home computers just 5 years ago. Nintendo have got onto a winning recipe in having a console that's got heavy support from content creators to start with. So there's loads of games coming out on it as a platform. You've got that mobility as part of its sort of key selling point, but also the fact that it's a highly adaptable kind of modular games console that can be used, it can be docked, it can be utilized in a more standalone fashion. It means that because it's got more use case, it's going to have a higher popularity among practically every age range. So it's almost an inevitability that it's going to outsell the Wii, simply because of that modularity and that it can be used in a much larger basis than any console, at least of the Nintendo line, in quite a few years. So yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's an inevitability. I think that it's going to outsell the Wii, really with at least to my knowledge, I think xCloud is practically the only other situation where a big console developer has taken a step to make gaming more mobile in that regard. And even then, the fact that it's kind of they're still selling the Xbox Series X as its own big standalone product, having that mobility built into the very ethos of the Switch is playing to their advantage. And yeah, it's just going to continue to grow, and as they add, like Will said, small iterative developments in its definition, in its size, in its processing power, it's just going to continue to dominate.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll follow that up with, I really don't think it'll pass. If you were to combine the 3DS and the DS, you'd have almost 240 million units across those two. So that will never surpass their previous mobile, because the DS was games they were able to play on the 3DS. So the 3DS was just a continuation of the DS with added features. And in my opinion, they're kind of the same family. But the Switch on its own, depending on how they market it, like if the next Switch is just like a 3DS of the Switch, where it's just like the next iteration of the Switch as opposed to a full-blown different thing, then I think it will eventually pass the DS and the 3DS. But if they move on to like the next generation console, not the Switch, but the next thing, then no, the Switch is done after about the passing the Wii. It'll probably be done. You know what I mean? So it depends on if they move on or if they iterate. You know, is that breaking point? Do they go this way or somewhere else?
Yeah, well, you never know. There's always a third option where Nintendo just does something ridiculously crazy.
Fair enough. Virtual Boy
Which I wouldn't
2.
be surprised.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Nintendo VR reimagined.
Oh, speaking of which, I think that VR, I have VR, and I think it is truly incredible. The technology is still young, but I think if the next gen, like for example, if the new Xbox Series X had a bigger focus on VR, I think that would have been a much more incentive, a much better incentive to upgrade from the One X. And I think that these newer generations, especially since there's nowhere really left to go in terms of like upgrading the processing power or the frame cap or something, I think VR is the next step. Because I don't know if you guys have ever done VR before, but it's really incredible. I will never play Minecraft or No Man's Sky or Star Wars the same ever again. It's just, or even Halo. There is a Halo VR game. It's in pancake mode, but we don't, whatever. I think that these consoles need to focus on this type of niche if they want to outsell previous generations. So I'm glad you brought up VR. I almost forgot about that.
I mean, so I'm quite surprised, really, given that a lot of these games console manufacturers are toying with their own virtual reality systems. I mean, Microsoft is obviously, they've been playing with the Microsoft HoloLens for quite a long while. I'm surprised really that they haven't made like a kind of a light version, so to speak, of the HoloLens. Not necessarily all guns blazing, but made a VR headset of the HoloLens that could ship with the console, with it, or at least is compatible with the console. Maybe it will launch at a later date, and then grant the new series of consoles, this VR capability. That would be quite a significant move in the right direction, especially if you implement that alongside xCloud.
Yeah.
The Legendary Edition of Infinite is going to come with a Halo Master Chief helmet that has VR built into it. No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
It could even be. I mean, it could. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that there hasn't been. I suppose there are some limitations, but I'm surprised there hasn't been more work and more interest in developing augmented reality, as opposed to just
I think that's
virtual reality.
I would prefer that anyway, because I would love to be able to like go outside with Halo and like all the trees and stuff just turn into like trees on the Halo ring, and the Covenant are popping up behind it. That would be so cool. I get to go outside and play.
Player One.
So let's talk about a console that is shipping with a VR. The PlayStation 5 has the ability to link with the Sony PlayStation VR. I know they have plans to do a VR 2. I don't know if it's actually launching alongside the PS5, but the VR for PS4 did not launch along the PS5. I'm just going to say it right out. There's no way the PS5 outsells the PS2, but it has a shot at outselling the PS4, which sold about 110 million units, I think, at this point in time.
I don't know if it will, because the PlayStation 4 was a unique case in the fact that it wasn't so much what Sony did correct that generation, but everyone else really was just sucking. So I mean, consider their competition. The Xbox One was terrible for a very long time. Then the Nintendo system was the Wii U, which was also terrible. So if you are like a serious gamer or someone who's like casually just wants to play third-party games or the Sony games, the really only option was the PS4, which I think is partially fueled why it sold so well. Because if you think about even the exclusive, like there are not that many exclusives on that system compared to the PS3 and PS2. So it's not like they went bonkers with more exclusives. They just had them, whereas like the Xbox didn't. And they were cheaper out of the gate than the Xbox. They were more powerful out of the gate. But I mean, as far as being user friendly and also like customer friendly, I mean, PlayStation in general, Sony in general, was not super friendly this generation. They locked cross-play between different consoles. They didn't have any backwards compatibility. You had to rebuy all your games, and then various other things. So I think it was more of a reaction to their competition than them themselves. I don't know if the PS5 is going to be able to recreate that magic formula.
Check out this snapshot in 2017. In 2017, the PS4 had sold 54 million units. That means we've sold another 50 million units in the last 3 years. And then the Wii U 13.6, it never climbed much above that. And then the Xbox One was sitting at 26 million. I believe it surpassed 50 million, but I think the Switch has outsold it already.
Yeah, it's over 50 million, but the Switch has already passed it.
Yeah. So what about you, Zeng? What do you think about the PS5?
PS5 is big, and the fact that you can't fit it. No, I'm just kidding. The PS5, it's a console that really gets me excited. I used to not ever be interested in PlayStation. I had a PlayStation 2 when I was a kid, but the PlayStation 5 is something I'm like, oh, you've got me interested. The games are phenomenal, and the games that aren't even out yet look phenomenal, like God of War Ragnarok and the new Horizon Zero Dawn game. All those games look really fantastic. And on the Xbox side, I'm like, Halo. All right, let's go. And I'm like, what else do we got? Halo, okay.
You got Fable. How dare you forget Fable?
I have never. Hold on. I have not played Fable yet, and that was supposed to be a surprise, but I'm going to be reacting to all the Fables in a few months, so I'm really excited for that. But
that's going to be interesting, because those games are super goofy.
And Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid, but those are way later. But anyways, the PS5 is a console that has the games. It's a console that I know will not sell the PS4, but I think it'll get to a point. It'll probably outsell the Xbox Series X. I think it already is. I think it will. And this isn't a console wars debate or anything. It is what it is. It's factual. That doesn't say the Xbox Series X is bad or worse than the PS5, but I definitely think in terms of sales, the PS5 definitely has a chance to get to a really good place for Sony as a company, and to maybe even make I don't want to say a spin-off console, but like like PS4 had a PS4 Pro. PS5 could do something like that and make another cheaper model like years down the line. So who knows? But as for it outselling previous generations, definitely not the PS2. It might get close to the PS4, but I don't know if it'll outsell the PS4. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those sentiments. I mean, again, I had a PS when I was much younger. Then the Xbox came out, and that kind of stole my heart. But since seeing the new PS5, and in particular, I'm glad you mentioned it, God of War. Seeing God of War Ragnarok on it, that's got my head turning, and it is bringing the distinct possibility that it might be time for me to jump back into the PlayStation market. If nothing else for God of War, there's something about Kratos. He's just boy. It's just as far as out. I agree with the sentiment that as far as outselling the PS2, probably not going to happen. But outselling the PS4, outselling some of. I mean, it's like you say, it's already outselling the Xbox. not sure on whether or not it will outsell the Switch, just because, like I said, the mobile aspect that comes with it. However, the VR does afford it again this niche that Xbox isn't dealing with. That I really think they're missing a trick for
Only
not
like
doing.
hasn't only been like 3 million PSVR sets sold though. It's pretty
It's not
low.
very much. It's a very low percentage of the PlayStation 4 population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I know it's sub 5 million,
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason.
which
why
is
Xbox
still the
hasn't jumped
best-selling
into it.
VR headset in the entire industry right now.
It's
Yeah.
also the cheapest.
It
isn't
just so I mean, isn't the PlayStation VR that's fairly old now though, isn't it? It's been around. It's
At
been around a
least
while.
Yeah.
between 3 to 5
4
years old.
years?
At
Yeah.
least 3 to 5 years, somewhere in there.
So, is it possible? I mean, I suppose we'd already know. Would it be possible that PlayStation are perhaps working on a newer, more linearized kind of version to come out with the
Yeah,
with
they
the
are.
PS?
I think they're working
they
on
are.
a fully wireless one, I think.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so in theory, then once that hits home, that could be again another launching pad that could see the PlayStation 5 have that many more consoles again sold.
So one of the
And
things they
hopefully
don't,
even boost sales of the new VR headset as well.
one of the things they'd never tell you when you buy a PlayStation VR headset, and I told this to people that actually went and bought one, because I don't think they were expecting it. There is like a solid like brick you have to sit on top of your console that plugs into the PlayStation 4 to make that work. And the way it works is it kind of like intercepts the signal from the PS4 and broadcasts it to the headset. They also don't tell you that the PlayStation VR headset you could actually use as an HD TV for any console. You could plug it into anything you want, and it would project the HD. It's like two little mini HD TVs is essentially what it is.
Okay.
But it has a lot of interactive controls with obviously the PlayStation Move controllers, which were repurposed for PlayStation VR. It's kind of a smorgasbord of things they put together to make it cheap because it's low production cost, but also effective because it works really well. Now for the PS5 VR, I think they're going a little more high end and they're spending a little more time in the R&D department. And I had heard from somebody that they were trying to go with a fully wireless headset, either with a battery or with a more mobile connection, where you don't have to physically have it plugged into the PS4 like with the PSVR for the previous gen.
Okay.
So
that would be a good and significant step in the right direction for innovations that would hopefully see that console being purchased by more people. And you've got to bear in mind that systems like that, systems in particular things like VR, consoles are then not just purchased by gamers. I'm aware of a couple of businesses that I've worked with in the recent past through my own company that use consoles with VR headsets to showcase their designs and their constructions and whatever other products that they're showcasing at the time. So they use them for a business purpose, not just for the gaming sort of aspect of it. So in theory, if they can really nail wireless VR for the PlayStation 5 and they go a bit more high end, that budget is not outside of the realms for companies to take on as a really useful tool going forward, and that may again bolster sales in PlayStation's favor.
Yeah, I can see that. So given that we've all kind of agreed, like, none of these consoles are probably going to outsell the previous gen, other than possibly the Switch with the Wii, why don't we postulate on Atari and a television just for fun? What do you guys think the chances are that the Atari VCS, if you even know what that is, I'll pull up the developer thing. I found
It's gonna sell 10 units.
It sold at least 15,000. Will, I'll give you that. So it sold at least.
Well,
that's
no,
what
those
that's
are gonna be
Kickstarter.
returned. The final number will be 10.
There was one that, this is the one that just came out. So this person actually physically has a Atari VCS. The only person I've ever seen that actually has one. Let's see if they have a good picture of it. There it is, right there. So it's how they got the weight and everything in here. That's what it physically looks like. It's a pretty wide console, and this is a developer set, so the color scheme may not be available to the regular public, but it's not like a light console. It's not a heavy console, but it does give some good aesthetics of what the original Atari looked like. But essentially, this is a dual boot. It's Atari OS, and yet you can also put a second operating system on it. So that was what their idea was, because they couldn't figure out how to get developers to develop for it. So like, you know what, whatever, you can put Steam on it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the Atari VCS. It's coming out in December, and the previous Atari best-selling console was the 2600 back in the 70s that sold 30 million units.
I'm going to say sub a million for my serious answer.
You think it'll sell 7 million?
No, sub a million.
Oh, I was like, holy cow,
Oh.
7 million.
No, definitely not 7. No.
I thought I heard 7 million as well.
So the price tag is
oh.
another good indicator. The price tag of this thing is $400.
Yeah, I'd
Whoa.
want to get the Xbox.
Yeah, I don't
Or
think
the
there's any
PlayStation.
chance somebody's gonna go and, unless you're nostalgic or you want something interesting and you have the money to just throw at it. In this economy, not a lot of people have that kind of money to just throw at something they don't really trust or understand. So, I don't think there's any chance it passes 30 million. I'd be shocked, but I could see it selling 1 million. I honestly could.
I have actually never played an Atari, so I have no idea what to expect.
You see,
I'm
I have.
uncultured.
Yeah, see, I have, and I can't. They're not going to outsell the original. Obviously, they're not going to.
No.
Back then, I mean, we're talking the 70s. That was like a golden age for the retro gaming, so to speak. Although it wasn't considered retro back then, was it? Obviously,
Right.
it was new. It was an emergent technology at that time, which made it unique and made it interesting and made it something that people wanted to look at and get involved with. Now they're offering something that is, from a functional standpoint, from the functionality they can grant you, not really giving you very much in the way of like great innovations, and then having to sort of simultaneously piggyback on things like you say, I'll make it so you can put Steam on it and things like that. That's kind of having to rely upon the reputation of something else. It just becomes more of a talking point than a console. It's yeah, then definitely not going to outsell the original, and I would even go so far as to say I think they're pushing their luck to get 1 million. I'd say it's probably more likely less than 750k.
Yeah, probably.
I would say I would liken buying an Atari VCS in 2020 to buying a brand new BlackBerry in 2020. It's a good talking point if you want to be different, but you're getting the same functionality as basically any other generic console or cell phone. So that's kind of my thought process, and I think the dog agrees with me. So
Yeah. He definitely is.
How about the Intellivision Amico? The best-selling Intellivision of all time, sold 3 million units. That was 1980. I'm not sure how much you guys know about the Intellivision Amico, but I predict it sells 5 million units.
Wow, that's pretty high, man. The thing is, I love Tommy. I love the concept of this console. I'm still unsure how it's going to hit and land with people. So I'm going to be more conservative and say he's going to sell 1 million consoles with it. But I think if people start to catch on with what it's promising and it does produce what it's promising, I think it will sell more than that. I just don't know. So 1 million is my guess.
What is this console? I've never heard of it.
You never heard of the Intellivision Amico? We've
I've
talked
not.
about it plenty of times on our channel, but essentially they took I don't know if you know what the Intellivision is, 00. Have you ever seen an original Intellivision?
Not an original, no.
So essentially they took the original Intellivision, they took that design aesthetic, and they're making what looks like what a modern Intellivision would look like. A lot of people say the controllers kind of look like 2 iPod Touches had a baby with a cell phone, but it's meant to kind of be comfortable. And I saw some videos of people playing with these things, but I can't seem to find them on the fly here. But it allows for asymmetric gameplay from directly in your hand. It'd be like as if somebody handed you a controller with an actual screen on it. It's like if you want to play Texas Hold'em on a game console, this would actually allow that. It's meant for casual and family gameplay versus the more hardcore entertainment of the Xbox Series X, the PS5, and even the Switch to a degree.
Yeah, it's supposed to capture that co-op gameplay that it doesn't really exist anymore. So it's more simple games. It's supposed to be fun, like just bursts of fun. And then also, what's cool about it is like all the games will be $10.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah, and so again, it's supposed to be like the family console, which doesn't really exist anymore.
It's like these style of games. Breakout is one of the games they're really heavily pushing as a new style of Breakout.
Yeah, the thing is, like, what I still find confusing about this is like, it's a really cool concept, and the more I look into it, the more I'm interested. But I think the nostalgia factor is going to hold people back because who really remembers the Intellivision? It didn't sell particularly well at the time. Not many people have nostalgia for it, and people are going to. The thing is, like, you still know the name, and you're going to think, oh, this is just like a mini Nintendo console, like the um, Nintendo Classic. So you may not pick it up thinking that it's just one of those consoles, but it's a brand new thing. I don't know. I'm slightly confused with that.
I'm not sure what sort of what sort of design ethos there is behind it, but you guys might know, is there anything been said about the possibility of like it being opened up to like almost open source, so to speak, so people can develop games for it?
Oh no! Basically, the way they have it set up is every game that's being developed for the console is approved and curated by the original devs of the console, the people that created the console. So, like, if you want to pitch an idea, you pitch it directly to the CEO and the team, and then they would approve you to be a part of their developer program. So, like, they're trying to take it from a quality standpoint. Like, they're only going to release games that have been approved through their developer process to come to the console, and they're only going to release a certain number of games at a time. And the other quality part of this is that even though these games are being pitched directly through and help development by the original creators, none of the games are supposed to cost more than $10. That way, they're only releasing a certain number of games, and all of the games they're releasing are going to cost you, 1/6 or 1/7 of the next gen consoles prices.
Right. Okay. I just wondered because if there was a degree of like sort of the ability for people to develop their own things on it, or at least some degree of
That's something the Atari does have. I will give them credit on that, is they have made it to where anybody can develop for the console directly from the console. So
okay, so in theory, this might be a slow burner. It might be something that initially people are like sort of confused about and a bit hesitant to pick up. But once a few people get hold of it, and especially if it's used in a family kind of setting, I mean, I got kids, so being able to sit down and play like a little game with them, a little video game with them is something that's good, good wholesome family time. If that's kind of a design ethos they've got in mind, then in theory it might be something, like a slow burner. People pick it up, a few more people pick it up. They see what this thing can do on like games nights or when people come over, to visit or whatever. Once you get past all the stuff going on in the world at the moment,
right?
And then maybe it will start to gain some traction and start to become a little bit of a sort of almost like a cult. like not a cult, like a cult.
A sleeper hit.
Yeah, like a cult sensation or
underdog.
Yeah. Oh, another cool thing is that you can link your cell phones to it. So
yeah,
you
it's
can use
add
your
extra
cell phones as
controllers. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Huh.
So, all right. Okay. So with. Yeah. Okay. So if it's got that kind of functionality with it, then I could definitely see this being a slow burner that could potentially start slow, get people's heads turning. They start having to play with it, see what it can do and what it's capable of, and then suddenly think, actually, this is a pretty good price point. This is a pretty good price for games. This would work really well for this. Yeah. Okay. Let's pick one up. If nothing else, it'd be cool for like games nights with the family.
Yeah,
So,
and that's actually why I'm picking one up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. In that respect, I think it's slow burner. Yeah, maybe $1 million. Maybe.
Yeah, I want to say $1 million. Thankfully, we interviewed Tommy, the guy here on the screen, and he actually told us. I'm not going to repeat it, but told us the number of units he has to sell to break even. So like, I feel comfortable saying $1 million, and he's still being okay. And the company will be fine still.
Okay.
He's not like holding anything over our heads, Will. You can say whatever you want. Tommy's fine with that.
I know. No. He's totally fine. I can't remember if he said that during the actual interview or like in between the segments. So.
Well, basically, they have investors' dollars. They don't need your money to maintain their company. It would just be nice to have a very successful console for them.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say if you guys want to learn more, like watch this guy's videos on this. Like his enthusiasm for the console is infectious.
It is.
So you can clearly see he's actually passionate about what he's doing, and it's less about trying to, sell 400 million units, but more really like the ones he sells, people really enjoy it.
Exactly, yeah. That's kind of been his whole message. But I don't want this to turn into another Amico infomercial.
I know.
So, is there anything else you guys want to say? Anything else you guys want to say about the next-gen consoles coming out?
Yeah, they need more Xboxes available to the public, so you
Yeah.
can actually buy one.
I'm hopping on that $35 a month plan for the Series X. Whenever they get that out and
Yep.
Halo's out, I'm definitely jumping on.
Yep, same.
I think I'm waiting for the Halo themed Series X to come out, because every single console that has released with the Halo game has come out with a themed Halo one. The Xbox One did, Xbox 360 had one, and I'm pretty sure the Series X is going to have one as well. So I'm pretty sure the
Let's
original
get a-
Xbox had one as
360
well.
actually had 2.
Let's get a
No,
Series
they have
X
four.
with
Or
Mendicant
E3,
Bias's
I think.
face on it.
That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, as always, if anybody has anything else to say real quick, say it now. As always, I'm Chris.
Now, Will.
I'm Zang.
I'm 0-0.
And thank you guys for being on here and suffering through
Thank
another
you.
45-minute video. Thank you guys.